Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew said constitutional and electoral reform will be high on the agenda of the new government. Dr. Drew, speaking in his first interview as Prime Minister, which was an SK Newsline exclusive, said issues such as new electoral boundaries and improving the counting of votes after polls close on election day will be some of the changes he's looking to effect.
With respect to the electoral reform, the boundaries, they have to be looked at. I mean, they're not even in keeping with having boundaries that are almost near equal as is required by law. So, and there have been multiple attempts to change them, and I think that we should abide by the law. And I think that's something that will be looked at to make sure that by next elections, the boundaries would have been aligned in keeping with the requirements. So that will be looked at. Not only that, there are a number of electoral reform issues. We have to see how we can introduce the technology in voting, so that it can be more efficient, quicker. The results can come quicker. I think we got the results fairly quickly, compared to yes. And a number of things have been done, and a number of things can be done in terms of counting the votes where you voted. So instead of having all the boxes come to one spot, you can have the counting at the station, and then just report that can bring in your results very quickly as well. And so we need to look at a number of critical things like that. So we are going to look at those and see how they can be done. One of the things that we also look at was the ballot box, and to make sure that it's in keeping with the legislation. So we'll definitely pursue a number of those things. And then we'll get on to the Constitution as well. And that is why I'm having discussions with the AG so that we can start looking at the whole legislative agenda.
The Prime Minister also spoke about the need for constitutional reform.
But if you look within our manifesto, you'll see there are a number of critical things that we will do in our legislative agenda. How does it relate to the Nevis issue? To make sure once and for all we start dealing critically with solving issues between our islands, and that has to be done from a legislative standpoint. And looking in the legislation as well to take it a bit further to see, people's rights to education, people's rights to health care and so forth. Those things have to, when you look also at workers' rights, you need our workers fully protected. Then we need more legislation to make sure that workers' rights are protected. For example, during the COVID, when people were told if you don't take a vaccine, you'll be fired and so forth. I think now, those things people know my own position. But even from a scientific standpoint, presently, there's no basis for anything like that.
The new cabinet of St. Kitts and Nevis will be sworn in on Saturday at 4 p.m. at the Warner Park. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.